Hey, guess what? Did you know that I, Lovebird, under my other alias, Evianna, has a webtoon? Well, I do. If you like reading about silly little characters doing silly little things, then please go read my comic, The Silly Time Comics, up on Webtoon now. It will make you feel cozy, nostalgic, and tickle your funny bone. And it's completely free, so what do you have to lose? It would literally mean the world to me if you checked it out, so just click the link in the description below. Thank you in advance, and let's get into the video. Hello friends! My name is Lovebird, and welcome to my channel. I hope you're doing okay, and if you aren't, I hope this video can help cheer you up a little. Today, I'm doing another drawing video for y'all. So, remember how many months ago now, everyone was freaking out over those My Little Pony G6 leaks? Of course, those leaks are ancient news now, and maybe even have been scrapped entirely or are fakes? I wouldn't know. I'm simply a My Little Pony fan, and I'm not here to speculate on G6. All I want to say is that these leaks were my original inspiration for making this video. Yeah, it took me a while to finally finish this video. Sorry it's been so long, I'm only a hobbyist YouTuber. But if anyone's still out there watching this, thank you, and it's good to be back. Now, one thing I personally didn't really like about those leaks was the fact that Twilight, Rainbow Dash, and Pinkie Pie were all shown to be returning main characters. Those three ponies, plus one of the main characters from Generation 5, Misty Bright Dawn, all go to a summer camp together that's dedicated to helping ponies discover their cutie marks, called Camp Cutie Mark. And yeah, it really bothered me that 3 of the new main 4 in these leaks were all G4 characters. These 3 characters have already had 9 seasons, a movie, several specials and shorts, and a spin-off, Equestria Girls, all dedicated to them. I just feel like they've already told their stories. They've already had their development. They've already had their conclusion. It's time to hand over the spotlight to someone new. It's also a bit odd to me that Misty is the odd one out in the group, being the only one of the main 4 from a different generation. In every generation of My Little Pony, it's extremely common for ponies from older generations to return in the newer ones. And I'm not saying that's bad. In fact, I think that's really cool. But why only stick to G4 and 5 characters? Why not tap into the potential of characters from all the generations? Especially the ones who have less development and could have more to explore with them. Unlike Twilight, Rainbow, and Pinkie, who, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love all 3 of those characters. But we've seen them enough. So then I came up with this idea. An idea that, once again due to my delay in making this video, now already has been done in a million other videos. But anyways, I was thinking, what if I made up my own MLP G6 main character friend group, where each character was a rebooted/updated version of one pony from each generation? And I thought that idea sounded so much fun, I just had to draw it. Though honestly, this is less of my own version of G6 and more of my own main 5. If only because I haven't come up with a ton of lore or ideas for the story of what I would make G6 about. I just came up with a friend group of 5 ponies, and only made up story and lore when it was relevant to them. While I show you the speed draw, I will do a voiceover explaining 3 things. 1. Which character from the generation I chose for the friend group and why. 2. The lore of the character, her name, personality, backstory, that sort of thing. And finally, 3. How this personality and lore ties in to what I'm drawing and any other things I want to know about the design. And naturally, I will be going in chronological order, starting from Generation 1 and ending with Generation 5. So, without further ado, let's see what happens when you combine one character from every single generation of My Little Pony. I have to confess something. I have never watched a single episode of G1 in my entire life. So I had to do some research to find out what characters there even were to choose from, seeing as I literally didn't know any of them. But after searching through an ocean's worth of ponies upon ponies, I kept being drawn to one of the first ponies I learned about. This pony is known for being the major inspiration behind Rainbow Dash, and that pony is none other than Firefly. If you have yet to have the pleasure of knowing her, she is, like I said, pretty similar to Rainbow Dash. Although, from the few clips I've watched with her in them, she seems to be slightly less tomboyish and competitive to me. But yeah, she is also pretty iconic from G1, and well-liked from what I can tell, and rightfully so. I don't know, there is just something kind of charming about her. Like she's just this cute and silly little Pegasus who just crashes up and flies around, and it's just, I don't know, I just kind of like her. She's also quite iconic for the fact that she is the first pony that Megan ever meets. If you don't know, the plot of G1 of MLP is about a girl named Megan who travels to the magical land where the ponies live. And the first time she ever visits the pony world, she gets there by riding Firefly, which is pretty cool. For my version of Firefly, I changed her name to Dragonfly. It might seem like kind of a random change, and it is a little bit. The thing is, I don't really care much for fireflies. I mean, they're pretty cool to watch at night in the summer, but they aren't my favorite bug. But dragonflies actually are my favorite bug. I love them. They just look so fabulous and cool. So why not name my character after them? In fact, I love dragonflies so much that I even made it her cutie mark. I figured between Firefly, Rainbow Dash, and Zip from G5, there are more than enough Pegasi main characters with lightning bolts for cutie marks. Another meaning behind her name is the fact that Dragonfly herself is actually part dragon. I've always found it really fascinating how, despite the fact that MLP is supposed to be a show about ponies, just how often dragons seem to show up and be important. Every generation of My Little Pony has at least one dragon character in it, minus G2. Some people may view this as a bad thing since, well, this is supposed to be a pony show after all, not a dragon show. But as long as the ponies are the main focus, I still really think it's so interesting how dragons are almost like the second most important species in this franchise. And I wanted my friend group to reflect this importance. But I didn't want to just give them yet another baby dragon sidekick. Between Spike and Sparky, I feel like there's been enough by now. But having one of the main characters herself be a dragon seemed a little too excessive for a franchise called My Little Pony. So I decided to do the next best thing and make Dragonfly half pony, half dragon. Of course, there's then the danger of her turning out to look too much like a cringy OC, but I tried my best to make it look natural, and I still wanted her to look mostly pony. So despite being a hybrid, Dragonfly looks exactly like a normal Pegasus, just with dragon wings instead of feathery Pegasus wings. And honestly, I'm really happy with how the wings turned out, especially with the colors and the sparkles. I think another reason why having one of the main cast be part dragon is cool is because it makes for a lot of interesting lore opportunities. While in my proposed G6 story, pony knowledge of dragons is limited, Dragonfly loves learning more about them and living out some of their culture and traditions in her own life, and gets really excited about it and loves sharing it with her friends. Dragonfly's mom is a Pegasus. She's a good mom who always encouraged and supported her daughter's dreams, and comforted her when she was bullied for being different from other ponies as a filly. But Dragonfly never knew who her dragon father was, and is often curious about her dragon heritage, which is another important aspect of her character, as I imagine that as the story would progress, Dragonfly would learn more about it and potentially find her father one day. Similar to how Rainbow Dash's greatest dream was to join the Wonderbolts, Dragonfly's greatest dream is to join the Royal Guard. They are nothing like the incompetent Royal Guard in G4, but actually help save ponies from danger, as well as protecting Equestria from the League of Villains that want to take it over. The Royal Guard's real-world equivalent would be like emergency responders. And don't ask me if there's a princess like Celestia who leads this guard, or what the government is like, or anything like that, because the answer is, I don't know. Like I said, the only time world building and story-related lore are important in this video is only when it is relevant to one of my main 5. Even if her name isn't Firefly anymore, I really liked the idea of giving Dragonfly a fire aesthetic. Not only does it tie into her original character being named Firefly, who in her original design and color scheme looks nothing like fire, like at all, which I definitely wanted to fix, but also again relates to her dragonness and fiery personality. Therefore, I made her coat color a darkish salmon-like peachy orange, mostly because I think that's a really pretty color, and more interesting than just plain old normal orange like Applejack or Sunny. Her mane and tail are very heavily inspired by sunset shimmers, but obviously I didn't want her hair to look like bacon, so to prevent this, I added more colors than just the 2 red and yellow, and made them more similarly toned colors, so that there is less contrast, and added a bit of shine, hoping that instead of looking like bacon, it will make her hair look like it is literally made out of fire. And I think it worked. With Dragonfly's fire aesthetic, she is most likely to be a firefighter within the Royal Guard. I like to imagine that one of her earliest, most iconic scenes in this show or movie or whatever this thing is, perhaps even how she is first introduced, would be when some pony's house is on fire, and Dragonfly swoops in to heroically put the fire out and save them. It is harder for her to join the Royal Guard, as she gets mocked for being part dragon. As for now, Dragonfly works as a campground staff. Camping and the great outdoors is her other main passion/favorite hobby. At her job, she often gives lectures teaching fillies about fire safety. Dragonfly, like her G1 counterpart, is daring and brash. She obviously cares about safety for others, sure, but she often forgets to apply the same rules to herself, often ending up being careless and crashing up when flying. This is especially due to the fact that her dragon wings can make flying a lot more difficult for her, which is why she is often a bit clumsy in the air, despite the fact that she does really like flying. Instead of being naturally good at flying like Rainbow Dash, she has to work harder to get good, and we would see that improvement throughout the course of the show. Dragonfly is extremely adventurous, and loves traveling and helping other ponies on her travels. Like how Rainbow Dash is obsessed with daring do, Dragonfly loves reading superhero comics from her childhood, which were major inspirations for her growing up, to want to be a real-life hero. Despite all this, I wouldn't really call Dragonfly a tomboy. Sure, she doesn't doll herself up much, but she definitely doesn't mind it either, especially if it's with her friends. Moving on to the next pony in this main 5. Now, we all have to agree that Generation 2 is by far the lamest of them all, right? I know, it's a subjective opinion, and I suppose there might be someone out there whose favorite MLP generation is G2. But dude, it doesn't even have a show. It's literally just toys. Like, that is not much to go off of. And unfortunately, none of the main characters in this generation really interested me. I thought a lot of them seemed really generic and boring. And again, how am I supposed to choose a character from a generation that doesn't even have a show? Well, I once again did my research, combed through an ocean of characters, and at long last, I found the diamond in the rough. And I am so proud to introduce to you all Copper Glow. Now I might be jumping to conclusions here, but listen to Copper Glow's character description. It reads, Copper Glow loves to fly around looking for metal things to fix. That is it. That is literally all we know about this toy-exclusive G2 character. Just that one sentence. But you know what that sentence reminds me of? It sounds a lot like tinkering. It sounds a lot like scavenging. It sounds like crafting. It sounds like steampunk. And guys, I love steampunk. Immediately, it was steampunk pony for the win. Heck, even her name sounds like exactly what you would give a steampunk-themed pony, doesn't it? Her look, on the other hand, well, as you'll see later, I picked not just one, but 2 other greenish ponies with red and/or pink manes to draw for this video. And that is way too much similarity for a friend group of 5 characters. Obviously, I wanted more color diversity than that, so that the characters look much more distinct from each other. But honestly, this color scheme kinda sucks for a steampunk character anyway, and literally doesn't even reflect her name. Nothing about her OG design looks like copper or glowing. So I basically just completely changed everything about her design and made her coat color gold, her mane and tail a copper brown with some colored streaks, and made her extra shiny and sparkly. The one and only thing I did want to keep, though, was the fact that she is a unicorn. Yes, you heard me right, a unicorn. Now you may be wondering, wait, but didn't Copper Glow's one-sentence description say she liked to fly around looking for metal things to fix? So wouldn't her original design be a Pegasus? And the answer is, for some really weird reason, some of the toy characters in G2 who were unicorns just have, like, detachable wings for some weird reason. Actually, apparently when you take the wings off of the pony, you can use it as a hair clip in your hair. So that's actually really cool. A cool idea for a toy, but not so much for a character. So yeah, we'll just be ignoring that completely and just make her a normal unicorn. Or at least a somewhat normal unicorn. Since I thought it would be really cool when designing her if her unicorn horn looked like it was made out of metal instead of being a normal horn, I came up with this backstory for her, inspired by Tempest Shadow from the My Little Pony movie. that Copperglow got into an accident as a filly where her horn got broken. However, she is still able to use magic thanks to her father making her a new horn implant that she uses. This causes her magic and inventions to often backfire, as her magic is a little bit wonky/broken. Copperglow's cutie mark was a no-brainer. 3 steampunk gears. Like how in G4, some of the main characters had 3 symbols for their cutie marks, while others only had 1, I wanted to do that with my friend group too. So Copperglow is one of the ones who gets 3 symbols for her cutie mark. Moving on to personality. Well, obviously, Copperglow is a tinkerer. She works in her father's shop, where she gets to create her own wacky inventions to sell. Like how Rarity is always scavenging for gems, Copperglow is always scavenging for scrap metal, junk, spare parts, all that good steampunky stuff. She often visits the local junkyard for such supplies, where she is good friends with the funny old stallion who runs the place. But she loves exploring and finding junk just about anywhere in Equestria. Copperglow is a handy pony and loves fixing things for her friends or helping them with projects. And the other ponies often go to her when they need help from one of her inventions. Unfortunately, her inventions often backfire. Copperglow is also an environmental activist who hopes that her reuse of old materials in her designs can make a difference. She even calls what she does unicycling, just like Izzy from G5 does. When she isn't inventing, you'll often see her being an activist or doing something to help the environment. She occasionally dabbles in sculpture art and alchemy, but inventing is her main thing. When her and the girls go on their adventures, Copperglow often has the best sense of direction and is skilled in map making. Copperglow is smart, but not necessarily nerdy or a genius. But she definitely fits the vibes of a cute, smart, glasses-wearing, hair tied back in a bun, steampunk protagonist kind of gal. She loves helping other ponies with her inventions, which gives her a sense of worth, a theme that I'm sure would make a great lesson to explore for an episode or 2. She's pretty adorable. That being said, sometimes she can have a short temper, especially when she's frustrated that an invention isn't working out. But she never goes crazy or gets out of hand. Everything Copperglow does is self-taught with the guidance, teaching, and help of her unicorn father. Her and her father have a close relationship, but they still, unbeknownst to them, have some unattended trauma from Copperglow's horn accident to work through. I'm not exactly sure what it is that caused the accident, but for example, if it was an Ursa Major like it was for Tempest Shadow, then Copperglow would probably have a traumatic fear of Ursa Majors or the caves where they live in. Her father is also really overprotective of her and worries about her because of the accident. But Copperglow insists that she can take care of herself, another point of conflict that would make for a great lesson/episode, similar to the G4 episode Some Pony to Watch Over Me, where Applejack acts very overprotective of her little sister, Apple Bloom. In addition to, steampunk, Copperglow's design is heavily inspired by Sunny Star Scout's concept art. With the side bag and the goggles and the braids in her hair, I think it all looks so cool. Too bad they changed it. Oh well. Copperglow's side bag is also useful, as it is where she usually puts her items she collects while scavenging. She always has her steampunk goggles on top of her head at all times, making it easier for her to pull them on over her eyes whenever she needs to weld or see better, like how Rarity and Izzy use glasses when they are working. G3 is up next. where I couldn't resist but to choose everyone's favorite pony, Minty. With how beloved and adorable she is, it wasn't really a hard choice to make. I changed her name only slightly to Wintermint for a couple reasons. For starters, usually pony names are a bit longer or compound words, and Minty felt a little too short for me. Also, I really wanted to lean more into a winter aesthetic when designing her, so it made sense to include winter in her name. But don't you worry, because Wintermint actually really doesn't like her full name and prefers to be called by her nickname Minty anyway. But yeah, between her being so well known for starring in a Christmas special, A Very Minty Christmas, the mint and peppermint candy vibes, an interesting contrast to Dragonfly's fire theme, and this gorgeous G3 toy image I found online while doing research, where Minty has snowflake patterns on her legs, I just knew a winter aesthetic was the way to go. As well as a subtle candy/dessert aesthetic, since it relates to her cutie mark. Minty works at a sweets shop, which is this generation's version of Sugar Cube Corner. Her special talent, as indicated by her cutie mark, is candy making, and she loves making all kinds of sweet treats to share with her friends. But anything mint flavored is definitely her fave. She is skilled enough to make other desserts as well, but candy is her main thing. Minty is just as sweet as the candy that she makes. Like Pinky, she grew up in a rather cold environment, far from her current hometown. Literally, as it was cold and snowy there all the time. That's why she likes snow in winter so much, as it reminds her of home, and why the cold never really bothered her anyway, since she's so used to it. Like Pinky, she has 3 similarly aged sisters. Minty is pretty much exactly like her G3 counterpart, with minimal changes. She is adorably sweet, quirky, loves socks and the color green, and is always ditzy and clumsy, leading to her causing accidental trouble. Winter is her favorite season, and hearths warming her favorite holiday. She may not be the brightest bulb in the tool shed, but she always means well and is very considerate and kind. She loves making others happy and telling the occasional joke, and she is the best at comforting the other ponies in the friend group when they are sad. She is content with her simple life and is just the sweetest pony ever. Her appearance also has very minimal changes from her G3 counterpart, besides the extra detail with the snowflakes, as inspired by that toy I mentioned. I drew snowflakes on her legs so that they sort of congealed into a solid white, giving her natural white socks on her fur, which of course alludes to her love of socks. I shifted her coat color to a slightly lighter pastel/mint green because I felt like her original color was a little bit too blue and dark for my liking. Similarly, I also lightened up the pink of her mane and tail and made it sparkly to look like freshly fallen snow. The curls and stripes in her mane and tail hopefully look a little reminiscent of candy canes. Yeah, I guess I didn't have as much to say about Minty. Unlike the first 2 ponies where I changed them a lot, I didn't really change Minty too much. So yeah, that's Minty. It is now time for the moment you've probably all been waiting for. Who the hey to pick for G4? As the biggest, most popular, most iconic, and in my humble opinion, best generation of My Little Pony, it would be a risky pick no matter who I chose. Well, as I was saying in the beginning of this video, I already knew right away that I definitely didn't want to draw any of the main 6. Like I said, I absolutely love the main six, don't get me wrong. But they're done, their stories are over, it's time to let some pony else get the spotlight. But obviously, with so many G4 characters to choose from and background ponies and all that, I still wanted whoever I chose to be at least almost as important and interesting as the main six. And to be completely honest, I feel like the list of characters from G4 who are at that level of importance is rather short. Most of the side and background characters just plain don't feel important enough to me to represent all of G4. That is, all but one very, very big exception, the unofficial 7th main character, Twilight Star pupil, the one and only Starlight Glimmer. So I did change her name a bit, and I have no idea why, but I have a feeling that some people probably won't like that I did. But honestly, I'm just not a huge fan of the name Starlight Glimmer. It feels really generic to me for some reason, but I still wanted Star in the name, because I wanted to lean more heavily into a space theme / aesthetic. To me personally, I think Stardust sounds a lot cooler than Starlight. I think it's because it brings to my mind beautiful, colorful galaxies, whereas all Starlight makes me think of is light from a star, which is pretty, but not nearly as beautiful as beautiful galaxy dust. I don't know. In fact, I was even inspired to give this character marbly patches on her body to resemble a galaxy stardust-like pattern, again to further the space theme. As for the name Glimmer, again, that word doesn't really mean anything to me personally, but a very similar word that does is glitter, because I love glitter and sparkly things. And I know technically glimmer means almost the same exact thing, but I don't know, glitter is just a better ring to it for me, I guess. All of this to say that her name now is Stardust Glitter. Stardust, much like Twilight, studies magic. While Copper Glow's magic abilities are more hands-on, Stardust is more traditional, with a focus on spellcasting. She is also the undeniable leader of the group and the main character of this generation. Alongside her friends, Stardust leads the resistance against the pony's most evil foes, of who she once was for, but now is against. Because, just like the original Starlight, I wanted her to be a reformed villain, as I think it makes her character a lot more interesting. So I guess that's the main plot of this show I'm making up, apparently. I don't know, I had to come up with something for Starlight to be redeemed from. While the Royal Guard that Dragonfly is so interested in plays a more defensive role in the fight against the villains, the Resistance, which the main five make up the leaders of, is more offensive, with the goal of not just to protect Equestria, but to stop the villains once and for all. Stardust is a good leader, although she is often unsure of herself until her friends reassure her and give her a confidence boost. Like I said, Stardust not only used to be a villain, but was also second in command with the evil organization of villains that want to take over Equestria, which is co-led by Tyrek and Opaline. Like Misty, Stardust was taken in by Tyrek and Opaline at a young age, and was manipulated by them to do their evil bidding. At first, as a filly, she felt guilty for what she was doing, and wanted to see the light of friendship. While out on a mission, she befriended Sunburst. The two became fast friends, and she would secretly leave the villain's headquarters to meet up and play with him. But just like what happened to Stardust's original G4 counterpart, things went south as soon as Sunburst got his cutie mark and abandoned her. Due to this and her trauma, She was led to firmly believe that Tyrek and Opaline were right all along, and vowed to never make friends ever again, being from that point on dedicated to their cause and just as evil and powerful. She even learned how to steal ponies' cutie marks. Until the start of this imaginary show, when a mysterious zebra, who is this generation's version of Zecora, received a prophecy that the pony who would save them from the tyranny of the villains was Stardust. But Stardust was famous as the second-in-command cutie mark stealer. How could the prophecy be right? Giving Stardust a chance, Zecora snuck into the evil lair to try to convince Stardust to once again see the light. Of course, it didn't work immediately, but a seed had been planted. Eventually, in an effort to carry out some sort of evil deed, not exactly sure what, Stardust had to run away from the lair and disguise herself to get some help from the pony villagers. Of course, she would have to lie and tell them they were helping her do something good, when in reality, they would be unknowingly helping her do something bad. This is how she meets the other ponies: Dragonfly, Copperglow, Minty, and the pony from G5 I chose that I won't spoil for you who it is yet. They go on an epic adventure, and through their journey, Zecora's guidance, and the power of friendship, Stardust feels incredibly guilty after betraying them, and makes up for it by undoing the damage, becoming a good guy, and taking her place as the prophesied leader of the Resistance. Outside of that, she pretty much has the exact same personality as G4 Starlight, combined with Sunset Shimmer too. Smart, talented, powerful, sometimes sarcastic, a gentle and kind spirit, and forgiving of others, and wanting to help them to see the light of friendship. Like Sunset and Misty, she cares about her friends more than anything else in the entire world, and they are like her family. Especially since she doesn't even have a biological family herself. Zecora still acts as a mentor to Stardust, especially in her studies and learning magic, and acts kind of like her version of Celestia. Like in G4, Stardust will likely run into Sunburst again one day and reconnect with him, and yeah, I totally ship them. For her design, I wanted Stardust's coat color to be similar to Starlight's lilac, but a little darker and lean a little more towards purple. There's nothing wrong with Starlight's original color, but it always kind of confused me, like, is she pink or is she purple? Just kind of a weird mix of both. I'm not sure how to feel about it. So that's why I made it lean more towards purple to make it more obvious and less confusing. I made her mane and tail the same purple as Starlight's, since I don't mind the color at all, but the sea green streak always throws me off. Like, it just seems like kind of a random color thrown into her mane. I thought, in keeping with the space theme, that a hot pink streak might go nicely with her purples, but then it made her accidentally look too much like Twilight. Oh no! But I mean, I guess I don't hate it enough to change it. After all, Twilight does have a pretty iconic look, and is probably the most iconic and famous MLP character from any generation ever, so I guess it can't hurt Stardust too much to look a lot like her. I also gave Stardust glasses, as honestly a small part of me kind of wishes Twilight the pony wore glasses too, and not just Twilight the Equestria girl. It just makes her look so cute and nerdy. And I also gave her an almost identical beanie to the one human Starlight wears in Equestria Girls, for no other reason than it just plain looks cool. This character design is definitely of her reformed self. While I didn't draw what she would have looked like as a villain pre-redemption, I'd imagine her accessories would have to be different somehow, because there is something really weirdly non-threatening about a villain wearing glasses and a beanie. Works great for a good guy character design, not so much for a villain design. Random fun fact, because it's cute and I can. Stardust also enjoys kite flying. And that's it. Last but not least is G5. I don't want to get too controversial. I know people have very strong feelings and opinions about G5. To me, my feelings about G5 are kind of mixed. Like, I really liked some parts of it, such as Misty being literally one of my favorite characters ever. But I think it's safe to say that it's not all that great. Especially for how it makes no sense within the lore of G4 for many reasons. But we don't have time to get into all that right now. Picking a character from this generation was a bit tricky. I definitely wouldn't say that the main 6 of this generation have had enough screen time that I had thought for the main 6 of G4, but they're still the faces of the generation, and I wasn't sure I really felt like touching them. Like I said, I love Misty, and I did heavily consider doing her, but honestly, I just really didn't want to mess with her. And obviously, Stardust already fills the role of my friend group's redeemed character. In a similar manner to how I picked Starlight, I tried to think of who the next most important characters after the main 6 of G5 are. And in my opinion, that would probably be Pip's friend, the spa pony Jazz. I have to be completely honest here. I hate that Jazz's full name is Jazz Hooves. I'm sorry, but how does Jazz and Hooves go together? I guess maybe it's supposed to be like the pony version of Jazz Hands, but I don't know, I just think that's kind of dumb. And I know Jazz's thing is giving hoofakiers, but the words jazz and hooves just really don't go together for me. Not just thematically, but it doesn't even sound good. So I changed her name to Jazz Jubilee. This was inspired by characters such as G4's Cherry Jubilee and G5's Ruby Jubilee, the latter of which I almost even considered drawing for this video, since I thought it might be interesting to have a pop star singer character in the mix. But she only shows up in one special, and isn't really important enough, so I eventually decided against it. But yeah, with the double J's, you really just can't go wrong with an alliteration, and the two words relate with a music theme. Part of me wanted to keep Jazz as an Earth pony, but then there would be no Pegasus character in my main 5, other than Dragonfly, but she has dragon wings, so yeah, I definitely needed a Pegasus to round out the cast. The G5 characters definitely don't have the best designs, but one thing I really like is how fluffy and angelic Pip's wings look, so I tried to give Jazz the same thing. At first, I thought Jazz's original cutie mark was simply just a horseshoe, and I was like, well, what does that have to do with her job at the spa, or her personality, or to do with literally anything? And changed it to a ribbon tied in a bow, which was actually heavily inspired by this one G3 pony I used to have a toy of as a kid. Only for me to later realize that her cutie mark is actually a horseshoe with nail polish in the center, and I was like, oh, it's to represent how she does hoofacures. So I guess it wasn't a bad cutie mark that needed changing after all. Oops, well, too late now, I already changed it. Seriously, is it just me? Or are the G5 characters' cutie marks, like, way too small and hard to see unless you squint and zoom in? Is it just me? Anyway, Jazz Jubilee is the owner and founder of the semi-successful small business spa/salon, Main Melody. Sometimes it gets busy, but she has a lot of off days, and is always struggling to plan new business strategies, and finding new ways to promote herself. She loves to do anything girly, shopping, makeup, the works. But more than for herself, she finds the most fulfillment and joy out of giving her friends makeovers. Jazz is a girly girl through and through. However, she isn't a drama queen or diva or tries to charm guys or anything like Rarity. She is actually rather modest and quiet, and maybe even a little shy, though nowhere near as shy as Fluttershy. Just like her G5 counterpart, Jazz is stylish and creative, mostly with mane styles and hoofacure designs, even though again she is more modest about it and doesn't always have tons of self-confidence, even though she should because she's amazing, and her friends always help her with this. Jazz is very sweet and kind, and her favorite genre of music to listen to, naturally, is jazz, and she loves listening to music while she works. Even if she doesn't have much musical talent herself, she is a big fan of a variety of music and loves going to concerts for fun. Jazz has a massive crush on her friend Rocky. Jazz's friends always have crazy ideas trying to set them up that usually fail, as she is very shy and awkward around him unless they are just hanging out as friends. Eventually, however, they do end up together, and he remains her long-term special sum pony throughout the remainder of the show. One of the necklaces I drew on her is a special heart-shaped locket that Rocky gave her for like an anniversary or Hearts and Hooves Day or something like that. Aw, cute. In addition to this necklace, Jazz definitely wears a lot of jewelry, especially those that are gem-themed. As you can see, I gave her earrings, a second necklace, hair ties, a bracelet, and, as inspired by the way the G1 ponies always wore bows in their tails, and by her cutie mark, Jazz too has a bow in her tail. Jazz has a Pegasus mother and an Earth pony father. She has an older brother and a younger sister, but of the 3 children, she is the only one who is a Pegasus, as the other 2 are Earth ponies. Jazz's relationship with her sister lies somewhere between Applejack and Appleblooms and Rarity and Sweetie Belle's. They usually get along and are rather close, but they have their moments as Jazz can get pretty annoyed by her sometimes. It was pretty hard for me to decide what colors to make Jazz. Not only is her OG design way too similar to Minty for this friend group, but I'm personally not the biggest fan of it to begin with, so I knew I had to change it, but to what? This was not an easy task, especially considering the fact that she doesn't have as strong of an aesthetic or direction to go for in her design like all the other ponies did. Fire for Dragonfly, Steampunk for Copperglow, Winter for Minty, Space for Stardust. But there were a few designs of characters from previous generations that I had considered drawing for this video that kept calling back to me. Particularly, the G3 characters Cheerilee and Toolarula. I wanted Jazz's coat color to be unique and distinct from the other 4, which made me think of the beautifully rich, deep magenta of G3 Cheerilee. Since Jazz is a mane stylist, I wanted her to have a colorful mane, and I love rainbows, but giving her a normal rainbow mane would make her look too similar to Rainbow Dash, right? Well, not if we look at Toolarula for inspiration. I always loved how she has a rainbow mane, but different from G4 Rainbow Dash. Instead of all the colors of the rainbow being in both her mane and her tail, the first 3 colors, red, orange, and yellow, are in her mane, and the last 3 colors, green, blue, and purple, are in her tail. I kept these rainbowy colors lighter and more of a pastel rainbow in order to contrast with Jazz's dark coat color. I also wanted to have her mane styled interestingly, So instead of having a braid like Copper Glow, she's got these bouncy, curly Kitty Cheshire from Ever After High-esque pigtails, which are also G3 inspired, but hey, her hooves are pretty heavily inspired by the original Jazz's pretty hooves. Although I made the stars hearts instead, since stars are kind of Stardust thing, and changed the colors to match her mane. But anyway, that's besides the point. Her personality still isn't really changed much from the original Jazz. I like Jazz from G5. Personally, I think the last actually turned out to be the best. Jazz Jubilee is by far my favorite one I drew in this video. And here they are, my friends. Here are all of my fan-made main 5. One pony from each generation of MLP, all in order from G1 all the way to G5. While Jazz is my favorite design-wise, I'm not sure who my favorite is personality/character-wise. I really like all of them, but I'd love to know which ones are your favorites. So if you want to, please let me know. Sorry to end the video so abruptly, but yeah, I really don't have anything else to say, and I've already yapped for long enough. So in that case, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye!